Welcome to episode 2 of the Comic Vigilante podcast. I'm John Faust.
And I'm John Trent.
Awesome. John, what are we talking about today?
We got a lot of things to talk about, mainly Daredevil. Season 2 just hit Netflix at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, midnight Pacific. And then we also got to talk about Gotham, the latest episode, specifically Bruce's journey, which was awesome. It's probably like the best episode of Gotham yet.
I gotta agree. I mean, we'll get to it later, but they definitely made some really good decisions.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'll also talk about the Civil War trailer, what you think about Spider-Man's costume, because that seems to be the biggest debate going on with that trailer. And then the X-Men Apocalypse trailer also hit this week too. So we can talk about that.
Yeah.
What, do you want to talk about Gotham first?
Well, yeah, let's start with Gotham, because Gotham's great, but the other ones I think we're going to talk about quite a bit longer.
Well, definitely Daredevil, for sure. We can save that till like the end.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm exhausted because I spent out of the last 18 hours, I think 13 of them were spent watching Daredevil.
Yeah, I haven't finished yet. I finished episode 11, and I'll probably go watch the last 2 after we're done here, just so I am caught up and we can fully dissect it even more next week if we want. Let's talk about Gotham. I know we were chatting earlier this week, and you had like a really interesting theory about Matches Malone and what his like real role was in the show.
Yeah. So every once in a while, I'll watch a show or read a comic or something will happen, and I go onto Facebook and I find John and I send him a message and I'm like, this is my thought. This is what I'm thinking. Or this was amazing. What were your thoughts? And so we're watching this Gotham episode, and it had a lot of stuff going on. I mean, something's going on with the Hugo Strange and the Penguin, which may or may not be interesting. It has the seeds of potential interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely it reminded me a lot of what was going on there. A lot of the Joker storyline from Dark Knight Returns, where they try and rehab the Joker to make him look like he's now a model citizen, and that seemed a lot like what Hugo Strange was trying to do with the Penguin, and we all know how that ended up. For the citizens of Gotham.
Yeah, it was a bad day. Lots of Joker gas. Don't
want to be a talk show host or going to a talk show where the Joker is the main guest.
Yeah, I think in comics in general, I'm thinking of like The Watchmen, just being you don't want heroes on a talk show.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Oh, and Civil War too, but that was a reality show, but. It was the New Warriors, right? That was the
New Warriors.
Yeah. So yeah, that was so really, if you're a hero and you're on TV for anything other than the news,
or villain,
that's true. If you're in comics and there's a talk show going on, bad things are about to happen.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much all of Dark Knight Returns has that media commentary, and it's even more so in Strikes Again, and we're seeing it in a little bit of DK3 right now as well. A little bit of the media commentary, and it always ends up pretty badly.
It's true.
But tell me about your theory. We kind of got sidetracked there.
Okay. So we got Matches Malone, and we are told that Matches Malone is the guy who killed the Waynes. And this, right off the bat, it kind of threw me for a loop. One, why pick a name that's not Joe Chill? Like, Joe Chill is the guy who killed the Waynes. But even more so than that, Matches Malone is the alter ego of Bruce Wayne later, when he goes and goes undercover as like a hobo, like to figure out what's going on. He does it in the Dark Knight Returns, actually. While it's the mutants and he's got the giant tank. Anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Which we saw some of them. We got to see the mutants too.
It's true. And And Alfred just shows up with this thing, with this folder, and says, "This is your guy. This is the dude."
Right.
And I was like, that was a little anticlimactic. So we get him, right? And we have this whole drawn-out process of finding Matches Malone, and we get to Matches Malone. And, well, first off, who was the lady in the Joker Club?
The actress? Or
Yes.
the character?
I don't think she was a character for the comics, right?
I mean, there is, like, Joker's daughter, who is someone who, like, is obsessed with the Joker, who goes so far as to even, like, try and, like, take the Joker's face and wear it.
That's messed up.
Yeah, she's pretty crazy. But I don't think that's who she was playing. She just seemed to be one of those. It was more of one of those things where the showrunners were showing us, like, hey, Jerome has had, like, a huge effect on Gotham, so much so that there's, like, this entire, like, underground scene of people who go to, like, raves to listen to people who are dressed up as the Joker. Lori Petty was the actress's name.
Yeah, she did really well. I really enjoyed her performance, and more so than that, she added kind of this mystique, this kind of rock rave club of Jerome, and who doesn't want to see that?
Anytime I get to see more of Jerome, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it was reminiscent of remember the Batman Beyond Joker, the Joker gang?
Yeah.
It was a little like that. Anyway, so
they're calling her Jerry. That's what they're on IMDb. Her character's name is Jerry.
Cool. All right. So now we get to Matches Malone. So Bruce has a gun. He's gonna kill Matches Malone. He knocks on the door. He says, "I'm gonna hire you." Blah 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 blah. He sits down, and it seems like Matches knew from the very beginning that something was wrong.
Well, he knew something was up. I don't know if he. I actually thought he was taken by surprise when Bruce pulled the gun out.
Right. So Bruce pulls the gun, and they have this conversation, and he's like, at first he wasn't able to give any specific details of the murder, and he didn't recognize Bruce, and you would think that he would. You know, he said that, well, I kill a lot of people, so that it doesn't matter anymore. I kill so many people that I don't even remember, which comes into play later in my theory. So the idea is that Bruce found out mysteriously through Alfred that this is the guy that killed him, and the guy doesn't remember any of this. This was huge news. Huge, massive news. There would have been so much heat on this guy, and yet no one, like, he didn't seem to know anything about it at all. He's like, well, I don't read the paper or watch the news. Okay, fine. Let's chalk that up to another weird coincidence. But the last thing is, he's all depressed. He's sad about the fact that he's done all these murders, never got caught. And, Bruce, of course, says, you know what? I'm not going to kill you. He decides, you are a sad, pathetic man, and I'm not going to kill you because that would be wrong. And he leaves the gun there. On his way walking out, Bruce and he meets Detective Gordon. They look at each other and they hear the gunshot. And let's remember that he was almost crying beforehand. Like, Matches Malone, this big scary dude, it seemed like he was almost going to cry. And he's like, kill me, please, kill me. So we get to, he killed himself. He shot himself. My theory is that this guy was set up by the Wayne Corporation to take the fall. He was there to give closure to Bruce so that Bruce would stop meddling in their affairs. So they paid someone and they said, we'll give money to your family or to whoever matters to you, but you're going to die. He's going to kill you. And then he didn't kill him, so he had to kill himself or his family wouldn't have gotten the money. And that's my theory.
So who do you think So I know the question I asked you earlier in the week was, do you think then that Alfred is part of this conspiracy with between Wayne Enterprises and Matches Malone?
No, I think that Alfred went to a source, and the source was dirty.
Okay. And then, but we never actually see any of like Match's family or even really like hear about them. So like what like makes you think that he has family? This like supposed stone cold killer.
Or maybe there was a movie.
Seems like he's just like a loner.
Yeah, there was a movie. Well, also remember that right afterwards, it was said that he was not a suspect in the murder because he hadn't committed a murder. He hadn't been a suspect in a murder for years previous. So either he got really good really quick and was just able to. He was the freaking Terminator, except that he never gets caught.
Which is quite possible in Gotham, especially if he's connected.
Yeah, but
crime lord.
Even like Victor, he wasn't though. Like nobody had really heard of him. He was like this guy who was apparently the freaking Terminator, but he lived in squalor. Like you would think that if he was killing all these guys, he would be making more money. But anyway, that's beyond the point entirely. So there was a movie, a Tom Hanks movie back in the day, and it was called Joe versus the Volcano. And Joe versus the Volcano, the premise of the movie was this rich guy was going to give this dude a ton of money. He had a fake doctor give him like a cancer diagnosis that says you got 6 months to live. And a rich dude comes to him and says, if you jump into this volcano in like 3 months, I will give you unlimited amounts of money for the next 3 months. So you can live and do whatever you want for 3 months. I'll make all your dreams come true, but in 3 months, you have to jump into this volcano. And the whole idea was it was some sort of weird real estate thing, and there was no actual... He didn't have cancer, he wasn't going to die. But it's a similar premise where he was paid to die. Now, why he was paid to do it, I don't know. But he killed himself to make sure it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's, like, plausible. I guess I'm just, when it comes to Gotham, there hasn't been, like, that kind of, like, crazy twists or turns, really. A lot of it has all just kind of been very straightforward, in your face. Like, you know who the villains are, you know who the heroes are. And then when like some good people, like people you think might be good people become villains, it's been very abundantly clear that they are now villains. Except for Jim, they're still kind of playing with that idea of with Jim Gordon on that line in the sand that he's crossed, and just how like morally gray his character has become.
Yeah, he straight up murdered a guy.
Yeah, but they've been pretty straightforward with where the storyline's going and what they're showing us.
And speaking of that line, what could really be awesome about that theory is if this is true and Bruce finds out that this dude is dead and he was innocent. That he was like a reformed criminal or like a small-time criminal.
And that's why he would take on his name.
As like a kind of a memorial. But not only that, the entire premise of Batman says, I will go to the line, but I will not cross it. I will do everything but kill you.
And that's what we saw.
Right. So what if this is the moment where he goes, because he was willing to kill that guy. What if he finds out that Matches was not in fact the killer, and now he has to wrestle with the fact that he almost killed a guy. And so he makes a pact with himself and says, you know what? There's always a very, very slim chance that this guy is not as bad as I think he is. So I will not kill him.
Right. I think he already kind of came to that conclusion in that episode, though. He like realized that, hey, like this guy who's saying that he's like a multi-murderer hitman, and he's really just like a sad, pathetic human being who feels like he's coming to the end of his time, and it's not really worth killing him. And I think he might actually see something like decent, like Bruce sees something decent within him that like really touches him, and that's why he chooses not to. I think it's a little more than just pity that reaches Bruce to make him choose not to do that. And then he makes that decision to go into the underworld with Selena just to get that experience that we all know he has to get to become Batman.
Which is pretty cool. I mean, it heavily rings of like Batman Year One.
Yes.
So Gotham was great. Some crazy things have happened this week. Crazy things in nerd news. And I think one of them's got to be... Well, there's two obvious answers, but let's start with the less obvious one. The Apocalypse trailer. The Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, so we got to see the X-Men Apocalypse trailer. What were some of your favorite scenes from that?
Well, I like that Apocalypse is starting to look more like Apocalypse. He doesn't look like Ivan Ooze from the old Power Rangers movie.
I mean, that was just... I don't understand why people were getting upset from a non-CGI, crappy cell phone photo. That they were... Well, I guess they did release the one photo that was like an official photo, but it was obviously non-CGI, and you know that they're going to CGI the crap out of this stuff.
I should hope so, because he looked like Ivan Ooze.
But yeah, he did. But Mystique seems like she's taking on a pretty big role. With what we saw in the trailer, she seemed like she was the one who was kind of mustering the troops to lead them into battle.
Yeah, I don't think she was even in the Age of Apocalypse series. If she was like barely in it. But obviously, you know, Jennifer Lawrence, she's a star, and people want Jennifer Lawrence to have a larger part, so they decided to make Mystique this mutant revolutionary. But I could take her or leave her. That's definitely a role that is supposed to be filled by James McAvoy, you know, Professor X.
And he seems like, well, based on the trailer, it looks like he's kind of he's been defeated almost. And but it does look like he'll obviously come back with a shaved head. But it'll be interesting to see how he joins up with this rebel group that Mystique is leading into battle.
Yeah. What did you think of how Archangel looks? I'm a big fan of Archangel from the old cartoons, and his wings look a little odd to me.
He looks very industrial. That makes sense. He looks almost like an alien, like an industrial alien, with the armor that he's wearing, with his wings.
Yeah, his wings look like something. If I was skilled, I could make in shop class.
I mean, I like it. I mean, I'm not like against it. I do like his wings. It makes him look kind of like Egyptian. He looks like the gold from Stargate a little bit. Like that's the kind of look that he has.
I see what you're saying.
If the gold had like flying creatures.
Right. I always wanted him to be a little bit more sleek. Well, in the comics, they were kind of sharp, and they look like if he flew past you, he could cut you with his wing.
Right. Well, I definitely think he has that. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and he has like this like kind of like blade on the end of his wings. It definitely looked like he could slice open your neck or even decapitate you with enough force. It looks pretty lethal.
Okay, I'm going to go on a little bit of a detour here.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, I used to collect Marvel cards. Did you?
Right,
Did you ever?
They were the hip thing. No, I didn't. I collect Pokemon cards. Still have a bunch. Never got that Charizard though.
So there was a card, Archangel. It was from the Marvel Masterpieces series, and it was their 1994 Marvel Masterpieces, and he's kind of purple.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Hold it up right now. Okay, I see what you're describing. He's got these huge wings.
Yeah, and in that picture, his wings are kind of huge. But that's kind of what I saw for him.
Okay.
And ironically, I had that one signed. Recently, I found out that because when I was a kid, I was all about trading these. And that was my favorite card, by the way. There was another one that was kind of my second favorite. You know, they were both favorite, but it was a Gambit one, which was from the same series. But I found out you can buy the entire set for like $15 on eBay now. So all of these things that were so important to me as a child, $15, and I'm like, got them.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when the demand isn't there anymore.
I know, right? But when I found out, I started buying all those sets that I used to collect. Anyway,
I do see where you're coming from though with like the wings. What you're imagining is completely different than what we see in the trailer. The trailer is his like feathers have become metal themselves, but they're much more like spread out than what an actual feathers were. Whereas this masterpiece card, it's more of like the metal has encased his entire wing.
I agree,
which is a lot different.
Yeah, Archangel, I really liked him in the comics. I like him. He's fantastic in X-Force, like the new one where they're all kind of have the white motif. But yeah, I saw him more slick and less bulky. But I think it'll be cool. I hope they get the character of Warren right, because he's important. Like he's a very distinct character.
Yeah, I think that's one of the problems that X3 had, is there were just so many different characters, and might be a problem in Apocalypse too. Just Mystique's like little team that she's leading has like 6 other people in it. Will we get to see enough of the characters to have them be like legitimate characters, or is Fox gonna rely on people's knowledge of the characters already to carry them through the movie? Which, if they try and do that, that's kind of a mistake. But we'll see. I mean, I am kind of nervous with the sheer number of characters that will be participating.
That's an interesting question, right? So, origin stories. I know that Marvel has said that we don't want to do origin stories anymore. And I think a lot of characters, we don't need another origin story. I don't want to see Spider-Man get bit again, or I don't need to see Uncle Ben dying again.
They don't want origin stories, but they gave us one in Daredevil.
Daredevil's different. They have like 12 hours, 13 hours to build.
You don't think they're going to give us an origin story in Doctor Strange?
Well, that one they kind of have to, right? I mean, you can't just jump into Dormammu.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, they can say all they want. They're still going to be giving us origin stories because people love origin stories.
Jessica Jones wasn't an origin story.
True. That one wasn't. That one actually did really well without giving us an origin story, and it shows that it can be done.
I think the closest to an origin you get was that, like, 4 lines of dialogue between Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage is like, "How'd you get your powers?" She's like, "An accident," and he goes, "Experiment," and that was it. That was all you got.
Yeah, it was great.
And I was like, okay.
I don't need to know anything else. I can my mind can imagine what the experiment was or what the accident was, or I can go pick up a comic and read that origin story. But yeah, you don't need to do that for every single character.
What was it that your friend said? That, yeah, you were telling me that the comics are DLC for the movies?
Yeah, well, not just the comics, but all the other kind of media that they're doing. This was more like towards Star Wars, mainly because that franchise is just so movie-oriented.
Right.
That everything else outside of the movies is like DLC for the movies. So if you want to like expand the story, you need to go and read how C-3PO got his red arm to find out why he has his red arm in Star Wars The Force Awakens.
It's kind of brilliant that way. Like the way of thinking it that way. I really like that.
I mean, they're taking what video game companies have discovered can make their products even more profitable, and they're translating it into multiple different media platforms. I mean, they're even doing it with like mobile media games. Like you can get stories on your mobile phone, your cell phone,
which is pretty cool. Okay, so enough with the.
Yeah, we definitely got sidetracked there.
Yeah, That was supposed to be. We were talking about Apocalypse, and somehow we got into origin stories and the DLC of the movies. But really, we need to be talking about. We need to be setting aside some time to be discussing Spider-Man in the Civil War trailer. The Civil War trailer was so good. Like, holy crap.
Oh my god, it was just great. I think my favorite scene, I know a lot of people love Spider-Man, but my favorite scene was the flashback to Captain America from the what was it, the first Avenger, and he's there fighting Tony this time instead of like the thugs in the street, and he's like, I can do this all day, and it's just like, yes, that's Captain America. He's still got it. And I thought that was just a brilliant moment. I just love that part of the trailer.
And what I love about that scene is it's saying that Cap sees this as a moral stand. And if you get Cap on a moral stand, nothing will stand in his way. He will die to protect that moral stance that he has. And like, there's something heroic about that. And even
it's what makes up that's what's the whole appeal of Captain America, is his moral stands, and he'll go down fighting. Like, that's definitely what makes Captain America Captain America.
Yeah. And it in a way, it explained the stakes of Civil War in a very, I don't know the word, in a very concise way. It says Cap will not back down. And you see, we've gotten essentially 3 movies of Tony Stark dealing with, all of his movies really have been Tony Stark dealing with the demons he's created. Whether it be Ironmonger or Ultron or Whiplash, which I think was, Iron Man 2 doesn't get the respect it deserves, but that's beyond the point entirely. So we've established that he wants to fix the mistakes he's made, and his character is kind of based around that. And then you have Captain America, whose character is based around his moral stands.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's this rock and a hard place when an immovable object is hit by an unstoppable force. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I see it that way. Tony has, especially in Iron Man 3, and then you see it in Ultron as well. They're really trying to get at the fact that Tony is this engineer, and he thinks he can engineer his way out of problems. Whereas Cap doesn't see it that way. Cap sees it more as like, if you take a moral stance, that will help solve your problems by getting back to this set of values that he embodies. Whereas as Tony's more of like, there's problems, I can fix them. That's how I see it.
I see what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah, I'm very interested, because in the first trailer, it was not specific in why you have these 2 good guys who we've established that they're good guys for, at least 3 movies, why they would fight. And it made it look like it was, well, I like Bucky, and Bucky's my friend, so I'm going to fight everyone and the U.S. government because of it. And that's just not a compelling reason.
Right. I still don't think we have actually seen why they're going to fight in the movie. I mean, if they're going to follow the comic story, we know why they're going to fight. But I'm not really sure they haven't really fully fleshed that out, and I don't think they want us to really know why they're fighting. And I think which is a good thing. I think that that's why we want to go see the movie, right? We want to see why these 2 titans are fighting each other.
Right, but they showed us General Ross, and it's got Tony and Cap.
That was in the first trailer. You're talking about the first trailer, right?
No.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, they did show that in the second one too, I guess, right?
Yeah, but they're both sitting there, and these are the Sokovia Accords. Look at all the devastation that happened. It's got, The Battle of Manhattan. It's got Sokovia. It's got when the helicarriers went down, and it's like got a death toll on the bottom, which was suspiciously low, by the way.
It was like 75 or something like that.
The entire Battle of Manhattan, 75 people dead. I was like, doubtful. But I digress. And it's saying people see you guys as heroes, but some call you vigilantes. That, you know, you're taking the law in your own hands, and no one is paying for the aftermath of your guys' choices. So you have the Sokovia Accords, which is taking the place of the Superhero Registration Act from the comics, and it's saying you guys need to be held accountable. And there's a and you have Cap saying this isn't freedom, and Tony's saying we have to be held accountable. So we get like we're starting to see, oh, this is why we're fighting. It's a philosophical difference and not, hey, Bucky's my friend and I gotta protect him.
Yeah, I mean, that's taken a lot from, I see the part where you're talking about that. Ross is showing them all like the devastation on the video, but it doesn't really go anywhere outside of that. Like what actually like instigates Tony and Cap like picking different sides of this like seeing this like devastation. Why they're actually like why is Captain America making a moral stance? What's causing him to choose this side and actually like go to war for it? And I don't think we've seen that.
Right. And it looks like this explosion at the UN, which T'Chaka is going to be there. Or at least T'Challa. T'Challa's there. Yeah. But it looks like he's like over the body of someone, which could potentially be T'Chaka, which is the father of T'Challa, the original, well, not the original Black Panther. It's a dynasty, but
right. Well, yeah, he's the king.
Right, he's the king of Wakanda, and T'Challa is the prince who is the Black Panther that everyone kind of knows. So I'm thinking that's what's going to get Black Panther in. And by the way, he looks fantastic.
Yes, he does. And he's fast.
Yeah.
Right. He leaps over cars and
slashes the wheel.
Yeah, he easily catches Bucky, who's speeding along on a highway. Like, holy crap. Speaking of holy crap moments, Tony's like wristwatch turning into like his suit of armor. Like
that was so cool.
Oh my god, that was so awesome. Like, how much more like imaginative are they going to get with Tony's armor? And I mean, it seems like they have like a limitless supply of ideas on how to make his armor come on him, and it's just, I'm just like astounded. Like that was just so cool seeing that wristwatch just turn into his armor. That was really cool.
I imagine there's a room with like 4 interns and a whiteboard. And they just say, it's just got a title on the top that says things that Tony can do with his armor. And it's like, come up with it.
How does Tony get his armor onto his person in like less than 30 seconds? Go. You have 30 seconds to write down as many ideas as you can. Go.
Yeah. Well, the suitcase is straight out of the comics from Iron Man 2. But then you have the wristwatch or the wristbands from Avengers. You have the Sentry mode from Avengers: Age of Ultron. That was cool, where he like opens it up, walks out.
Yeah.
Which, why don't you just have all of them do that?
I don't know. Those that wristwatch is cool though. I'm looking at it now and I'm seeing like, well, what are his glasses doing? He's got these like cool glasses on too. They've got to do something as well. Yeah. I mean, they definitely have like something going on in this scene where Bucky's they're grappling for the gun, and I mean, he definitely looks like it has some kind of UI on it at least.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, I mean, the inventions that they've created for Tony Stark they're just incredible.
Agreed. I want a HUD, like a heads-up display in my sunglasses. Like, that would be cool.
Yeah, it would.
Like Google Glasses, only they don't look terrible.
Right. But let's talk about what everyone has been talking about. Spider-Man's costume. Did you like it or did you not?
Before you go into the Spider-Man's costume, you have to go into Spider-Man just shows up, and first off, Tony Stark calling him and being like, "Hey, Underoos," which Underoos apparently exist in this universe, which is cool. But other than that, what a perfect.
He's calling him a pet name too. Yeah. So he's obviously very friendly with him.
Right. And it's like kind of because we know that the original costume is going to look like something a 15-year-old kid would build in his, from stuff he bought off the internet. So it could very well be that, he looks like, old school, I don't know, like some sort of like shorts on, like over the tights or something ridiculous like that. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm hoping they just don't go like the standard first costume in a superhero movie and make it a hoodie.
Yeah, that seems to be the number one thing to do with superhero costumes.
Yeah. Okay, so he shows up. First thing he does is he webs Captain America's hands, which, by the way, we live in a world where we just watched Spider-Man web Captain America's hands together, rip the shield out of his hands, and show up, and he's like, "Oh, hey, guys."
Yeah.
Like, what a time to be alive and be a nerd.
I know. That was just I think that was just such a great scene to end the trailer on, too. He's just like, "What's up, guys?"
Because
I'm just hanging out. I'm Spider-Man,
And you kind of get some context there, right? Because
he knows everyone. He's like, "Hey, everyone.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing? Why are you fighting? What's going on?"
I imagine Peter Parker in this universe has like all of the action figures, and he's got like posters of Cap and Thor and Iron Man on his walls, and that's why he decided to be a superhero. Once he got his powers, that's like how I imagined him. And so he shows up, and he's got to take sides.
He's Phil Coulson as a kid.
Yes, he's Phil Coulson, the way he was in the Avengers, and the great Phil Coulson.
Yeah, the one who hasn't gone through. Gone to Tahiti.
Yes. And you get glimpses of that in the TV show, but really the best Coulson is the Coulson from the movies.
Yeah, I loved him in Avengers. But yeah, I can definitely picture like a young Coulson who is Peter Parker now, taking on a lot of like a young Coulson would.
Yeah.
Like those traits, I had these I collected your cards, Captain America.
Will you sign them, please?
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Or I imagine him just, because he's like a science bro in the same.
Yeah.
But he's not at their level. So I imagine him just looking at Captain America and maybe almost breaking the fourth wall in a way and being like, "So how exactly does your shield work?" So it bounces, just asking him questions that, as a fan, somebody would want to know these type of things in that universe. I just there's so much they can do with that character. He shows up. Now, costume. Let's talk costume. I love the eyes. How
yes,
he has like the Steve Ditko eyes, like the kind of a lot of black around, and they kind of they're mechanical in some way. They have like a sound to them,
there's like a lens. There's some kind of he has some kind of lens inside, it sounds like.
Yeah, which, you know what? A 15-year-old can't do that. You know what that tells me? Iron Spider, baby. Iron Spider.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Peter Parker is pretty ingenious. I don't know. He could definitely create his own kind of lens, but obviously he's working with Tony at this point already. So, and Tony's on calling him Underoos. So I definitely think that is very plausible that Tony has helped Peter make some adjustments to his suit.
Yeah, and that suit looks, and I see where people have some issues with it, but in terms of comics, That is straight out of old school Steve Ditko. That's original Spider-Man stuff.
I mean, the only thing I have issues with is the little like V on his arms.
Oh yeah, the black.
Or is it black? I thought it was blue, but yeah, it might be black.
Well, yeah, you can't see. It's kind of like it might be black, might be blue.
But I'd like to see it all red instead of the it almost looks like a soldier's rank on his shoulder.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
It just bothers me. I don't know why. That's the only thing that like really like stands out to me. Like I know a lot of people were like they didn't like the eyes. I love the eyes.
Oh yeah.
It's just this like this V on his arms. That's what bugs me.
Yeah, what I love about the eyes is they're expressive, so we can get some like real expression without being CG like a Deadpool. Because you know, a lot of people have been saying, and it's ridiculous that they're like, well, they copied that from Deadpool. This was definitely in production well before, you know, the Deadpool came out. So, but beyond that,
either way, I mean, it's Hollywood's making movies. That technology is there. They're going to probably share.
Oh, of course.
So,
but
who cares if they're copying anyways? Like, if you're making a quality product and it improves, even if it improves, I think it improves the look and the feel of Spider-Man. So even if they are copying, I think that's like a really terrible reason to complain about it.
Right.
It's a good reason. Like you should be saying like, yes, I like how you're using something that was extremely effective in another movie, in this other movie. Like that's a good thing.
And I kind of like how the eyes went from kind of a Todd McFarlane, like the really big white eyes with a little bit of black, to the Steve Ditko, lot of black. Like, you have two generations of Spider-Man eyes in like a split second, which was very cool to me. Kind of a shout out to, if you understand this, you're cool.
Right.
And I appreciate stuff like that.
Yeah, and it also was like it went from like, hey everyone, and then it's like I'm getting serious now too.
Yeah.
Things are like getting out of hand here. We need to figure out what's going on.
Right.
But so we got that big line drawn in Civil War between Cap and Iron Man, but we also have some other big lines being maybe not being crossed, but they're getting there, and we see that in Daredevil. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Daredevil just dropped this morning, and I've spent a lot of my I've been up for way too long at this point, and because I've been watching all day, well, all last night and this morning, I've been watching Daredevil. It was fantastic. I just finished it a bit ago, and the entire theme of this second season is, what is justice? Where is the line? Who should be able to mete out justice?
Yeah, what's right and wrong when it comes to delivering justice?
Right. What things can be done that deserve universal punishment? Is there a wrong that can be committed that is worthy of death? And who is allowed, who should be able to mete out that punishment? Very interesting questions.
Very deep questions,
yeah.
Like super philosophical questions that people have been asking for centuries.
Oh yeah. I mean, going back to the philosophers, speaking of, you know, what is life and what is society? I mean, even Plato talked about that, and you know, what is justice? These are questions that the great thinkers of the world have been asking, and superheroes are a very interesting critique on justice, because the entire idea of a superhero is that they are going outside of the law to take it onto themselves, which is illegal. I mean, all these people are vigilantes, but we don't see like a Superman to be a vigilante. We don't see a Captain America to be a vigilante because we see him in the moral right.
Well, we also, I mean, you picked two characters who also have very close ties and actually work for the government in many instances.
That's true.
So they do work within the law a lot. I think maybe a Batman might be more of a better character to use as kind of like working outside the legal system, if you want to call it that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Daredevil definitely explores that option, and he's definitely what makes him even more interesting is that he is a lawyer, and we get to see a lot of him working in the courtroom that we didn't get to see as much in the first season. So I really like that too. That we got to see a lot of not only these questions taking place outside of the courtroom, with seeing the different types of vigilantes that are showcased, but we also see it happening within the courtroom.
Yeah. Actually, I think we see a lot more of Foggy being awesome in the courtroom than Matt. But Foggy this season, I enjoyed Foggy this season.
I think he was one of my favorite characters. I mean, he's like top 2 favorite characters so far. I mean, I've only gotten to episode 11. But yeah, definitely top 2. I loved pretty much everything he was saying. The writing that they did for him was great. His character development, absolutely fantastic. And I just really loved his interaction with Matt and the discussions that they had with each other.
Yeah, because everyone kind of takes a stand on justice. So Foggy is the exact opposite, is the opposite in every way of someone like the Punisher, of like a Frank Castle. So Foggy says the law is sacred, that anything outside of the law is immoral, that the law creates morality almost, and that...
Hold on, let me stop you there. Like,
go for it.
I'm not sure I totally agree with that, given his relationship with Matt, and the knowledge that he has of Matt and Matt's alter ego. But that's just kind of... I don't think he's all about just the law. I mean, he obviously has some exceptions.
But see, that's what's interesting, because every moment that that they have interactions, he's expressing how much he dislikes what Matt does. He's like, "You are my best friend. You are family to me. But what you're doing, I don't agree with, and you're going to get yourself killed."
So I'm not sure he like totally disagrees with what he's doing. I think it's more along the lines of he sees Matt losing himself in what Matt's doing. Foggy sees Matt distancing himself from the life that he's kind of created. And I think that those are some of the biggest critiques that Foggy has. I'm not sure he really he definitely critiques the lifestyle that Matt lives a little bit with Daredevil, but I don't think it's a full critique, especially given some of the later episodes where we see Foggy being thankful.
I see what you're saying. And I'll even rewind it to season 1 when Foggy finds out, which I think is one of the best parts of the first season in terms of non-action scenes. When Foggy finds out that Matt is Daredevil, or by the way, spoilers. Like spoilers for this entire second season and the first season. But when Foggy finds out, it is a very real reaction that I don't think most comic book TV shows or movies deal with very well. Most people are like, "Oh, you're the Flash. That's awesome. Cool." It's not like,
"Oh, wait, you lied to me."
Yeah.
I'm your best friend and you lied to me.
And you're gonna get killed. You're gonna get shot. The biggest issue that Matt had that Foggy had was, we are lawyers. We fight for people within the court. And then you leave the court and go fight people for real and harm them to deal out your own idea of justice. And that was a really big issue for Foggy, and I think it carried into the second season in a lot of ways. But he kind of, I agree, to a point in the second season, he's kind of come to grips with the idea that this is what he does, and I can't really fix it. But I think it's also interesting that as Matt chooses being Daredevil over being a lawyer, like he starts skipping important meetings and things and actual court appearances to go be Daredevil. It's a fundamental shift of priorities.
Oh, definitely. And I think that's what I was saying. That's Foggy's biggest concern is Matt sacrifices the life that they've built together with Nelson and Murdoch, and just being like the best of friends for this kind of. He's almost on a crusade.
Yeah,
that he takes on. But speaking of types of justice, someone who definitely challenges Matt's own sense of justice is Frank Castle. And the first 3 episodes really delve into that clash between the two.
Yeah, who absolutely steals every scene he is in. John Bernthal is the Punisher. He was so good. That scene on the rooftop where they have that philosophical discussion.
That's straight out of the comics.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it really was just one of the best, well-written scenes I think I've ever seen on any kind of visual medium, whether it's movies or television. It was just so moving and powerful, and you could just see the contest of wills and just the anguish almost, and where he was coming from.
Yeah, and when Frank is able to get what was the criminal's name?
Are you talking about the one that they were defending?
Yeah.
His name was he had a weird name. It was like an Irish name, but the Irish guy that they were defending.
When Frank gets him to admit that he killed not only some random guy, but an old lady who just happened to see his face, you see on Matt this, in his face, the realization that I almost let this guy get away. I was fighting for this guy to get away.
I mean, he had actually did do that. He just another character kind of helped Matt avoid the situation of him actually aiding and abetting a murderer.
Yeah. That guy, the Irish dude, is a terrible human being. And John Bernthal, Frank Castle, is there saying he is going to get out. He is going to make a plea bargain and he's going to get out. And it will be your fault and whatever he does next will be your fault. Are you okay with that? And Frank Castle says, no, I am not okay with that. That's why I'm going to kill him.
Yeah. Well, he was really trying to push Matt to was trying to only give Matt 2 options. Stand there and let the Punisher kill him, or Matt was going to have to kill him. But what was great about that scene is that the Daredevil doesn't stand for those 2 options. He finds his own option, third option.
Right. But as you're listening to Frank, you're sitting there going, he has a point.
Oh, definitely. I think that any time Frank Castle's one-on-one with any of the other characters, whether it was with Daredevil again in the cemetery scene where he was just opening up his heart to him, or any of the scenes with Karen Page, whether it's in the interrogation room or at the diner, he literally challenges your ideas, and he sees right to the heart of the problems. That's a afflicting these other characters readily has like a diagnosis, or he's like, this is how you solve the problem. Whether it's by the barrel of a gun or just direct comments, like stop moaning about yourself, like you have it good.
Yeah. His idea of justice is that kind of Mosaic law, Code of Hammurabi, eye for an eye. You've killed someone, and so you must die. And
he's okay with him. He understands. He abides by that rule too, and he follows it out. Even though like he talks all this talk with with Karen in the interrogation room about how he's going to do certain things, but when it comes down to it, he lives by his own code as well.
Yeah, and he doesn't harm innocents, but like he has this strong moral code, and I love how they get you to, because you think, spoiler for later, all of these assassinations start happening of the people that wronged the Punisher, and you find out that it wasn't him, but for a while you think it was.
Oh, see, I mean, I was always with Karen on that one. I knew it wasn't him. Just, I don't know. It's because I feel like they had built up his character so much to where they had shown you that he had this code, that he wouldn't do those kinds of things. But they do. I do see how you say where like there is that, like they do try and make it so you think that it's him.
Yeah, especially on the DA, because you see where the DA is directly responsible for the deaths of his family.
Correct.
And even though she didn't pull the trigger, it was her political maneuvering and her incompetence, negligence really, that caused the problem.
It wasn't even negligence. I mean, it was an outright. She made a decision to greenlight a project. She greenlit the
sting.
The sting, and she made that decision. I mean, she was definitely not negligent. Negligent would imply that she didn't make a decision.
Right, but she didn't make the decision to clear the park.
Right. She made the decision not to clear the
That's
park.
true. I mean, it's hard to claim negligence when she straight up did it on purpose.
Yeah, and she specifically admits that, like, I made the decision not to clear the park because I felt that would tip our hand.
Right. So when that happened, and she dies, obviously. So she dies, and I really, to myself, was thinking, would he, like, where does this fit in his code? And you start really examining his code and determining for yourself where you think it fits. And I was really on the fence. I didn't know until I thought about how he talked about being a scout sniper and how he's one shot, one kill. And yet they were just spraying bullets and Foggy got hit. I'm like, no, Foggy got hit. Can't be Frank.
So I also think, if you remember, there was that one scene where he's in like the pawn shop, and
that was a great scene, by the way.
Yeah, he's dealing with the pawn shop owner, and the pawn shop owner goes through all these, like, this list of like terrible things that he wants to sell him.
Weird
not
porn.
Terrible,
really weird
yeah,
porn.
Weird porn, and he eventually gets to like one. And he's just like, that's unacceptable. Like, you just see on his face, it's like, that's unacceptable. You're getting punished now. And he turns around and he punishes the crap out of this pawn shop owner. But I mean, he bought an illegal police scanner from this guy like seconds before. So he's not opposed to, at least this version of the Punisher that we're seeing. He's not opposed to certain minor illegal acts.
Right. And he's going through, like, it was weird porn before, and then he gets to pedophilia. He gets to child porn.
And child porn, yeah.
And the moment he says child porn, he's like, you're getting punished. But I think it's interesting that He had to have been armed at the time. He had to have had a gun on him because he's the friggin' Punisher. And he grabs a bat, which tells me he probably didn't kill him. He just...
Oh, I think he killed him.
You think?
The Punisher kills people.
That's true. I guess...
I don't think there was anyone that the Punisher met who didn't die unless he was stopped in the act of killing them by Daredevil.
That's interesting. Kind of the idea of half measures. He spoke about that on the roof. He spoke about how...
That was in the trailer, too. That line.
Yeah. Matt's idea of justice is ridiculous to Frank.
To the Punisher, yeah.
Because he sees it as half measures. You're halfway fixing the problem, but it's still going to... I mean, bad things are still going to happen because that guy is still a bad guy and he's still around to do bad things. And
what's really interesting is that Matt actually starts seeing that as the season moves on, especially when we get to see Kingpin, and Matt goes to visit him, and that's where he like really kind of is like starts questioning his own sense of justice. And I was also like, I was really disappointed that we don't see him go to the priest like we did in the first season. I think there was like one time they visit the priest, unless he does in the last 2 episodes that I haven't seen yet.
I believe so. I seem to remember 2 or 3, possibly 4 priest scenes.
There's a funeral where he talks to the priest, but that's the only one that I recall.
Right.
Which was an excellent scene as well, which was all about justice as well. And the priest was kind of reaffirming Matt's sense of justice.
Yeah.
By talking about why Matt felt guilty that he wasn't able to save this terrible human being.
Right. And he tells him to keep doing what he's doing, that he's doing good work.
Right.
Which is ironic because, the standard, being Catholic, going off the Bible, you have kind of old school, Old Testament justice, which is eye for an eye. The God of the Old Testament is essentially the Punisher.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about this. When I was watching this, I was just like, yeah, the Punisher is the Old Testament, and Matt is a little bit more of the New Testament.
Yeah. Touchy-feely, I want to save the planet, save you from yourself, as opposed to, I call down fire.
Yeah. And he does. The boat scene, he calls down fire.
That was so great. I love that scene.
Yeah. It was really good. And then the scene in the diner was just brutal too. And then Daredevil is the best show when it comes to like live action combat scenes.
Yeah.
They were just all like amazing. Like I loved the fight scenes between Punisher and Daredevil in the first 3 episodes, and then that like hallway staircase scene with Matt just like going ape on that biker gang. That was just fantastic. I was a little disappointed with the boat scene on it seemed how easily Matt defeated Frank in that scene originally. I guess maybe they're saying that Frank is just so beat the crap out, like he can't be toe to toe with him. That was just a little hard for me to swallow on how easily he was defeated. That's probably the biggest problem I have had with any of the episodes right now, is just that one scene.
I took that scene differently because Matt knew that wasn't the guy he wanted. And
right.
And he's like, you know this too. You're just going to kill him because you're pissed off and he's a bad guy and he probably like would be on your list. But this isn't the guy you're essentially trying to... He didn't do what you're trying to pin on him. And if you kill him, we're not going to get the information. And I feel like He was so upset and he just wanted to be done. And he's like, this is the guy. I'm almost fooling himself. And when he lost that fight, it was him going, I know. I'm just so tired. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. That was kind of what I took from it. But getting back to great scenes, great fight scenes.
Great scenes.
I think my favorite, the hallway Daredevil scene is
from episode 1.
No. So
or the one from this, or the one from season 1. Sorry,
I'm creating a classification of fight scene that Daredevil has perfected, which is the hallway fight scene. There's a few in this. There's one in season 1 and a few in season 2. And my favorite hallway fight scene is the prison fight with with the Punisher, because he had a shank. You give
Well, he had lots of weapons by the end.
Yeah.
Because apparently that's like the most unsecure prison block.
The most unsecure maximum security prison ever.
Yeah.
It's like an episode of Oz, but that was on par for me to the original episode 2 hallway scene. I liked the or the episode 3 stairway scene. It was pretty cool. It had a lot of the same elements, but
it was a little over the top.
Yeah.
I will say it was a little over the top, whereas the prison scene with the Punisher was very, very believable. And like they did a great job. The makeup artists in this entire like season did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Like just so good. Whether it was Elektra with a giant gash in her stomach to the Punisher's face just like being like beat to crap the entire season.
And throughout the season, the bruises were healing?
Yes, they were. And then there would be new ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was just like it was just so good. And then something else that I just really like about Daredevil from a cinematography standpoint, they just use so many different types of camera angles and like unique shots that you don't see in your standard cable affairs, such as like The Flash or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
You get to see like when they're in those those fight scenes, you'll see the camera like give you different shots of the action happening. And it just makes it more dynamic and just a better viewing experience. And then there's even those scenes where like they'll put like a screen up. It's an actual prop on the show. It's not like they're putting a screen, so you see like the shadows of the characters instead of actual seeing them. But you know they're there behind this veil.
Right.
And just stuff like that. It just adds to your viewing experience and makes it just just more amazing.
I agree. So keeping with the ideas of justice, let's go to Elektra.
Yes.
So Elektra seems to have no code whatsoever. She kills, and it's fun, and she's a soldier, and she doesn't ask questions. She's sent to kill someone, and she does it.
Yes, she is mission-oriented. She does what she's told to do. And she also, I mean, I actually had like, she's also like a really interesting character, given the fact that she picks a side and then within 5 minutes she's abandoned the side that she's chosen. So that was a little difficult to swallow.
Yeah.
And it was good for the shock factor, and I also liked it for the character. I thought it was like really good for the character development, and it showed who she really was, because you didn't really know who she was up until that point. She was kind of a chameleon.
Right.
She was like the seductive chameleon who was like taking Matt away from his
real life.
She was leading him down this like bad path. She was like the people in high school that your parents warn you about, like the bad crowd that you shouldn't hang out with. She was like that. Like that's what she did. She was like taking him away from his life, his friends, his job. Like he was sacrificing all of it.
Elektra, you were saying that she made this 180-degree, turn. But to be fair, if my father figure sent an assassin to kill me, I might make a 180-degree turn too.
So I'm not talking about the 180-degree turn happened before the airport scene.
Okay.
It happened when the hand guy attacked. She had just like sent Stick out of the house, sent him packing, and then that one hand assassin.
Oh, the kid.
The kid shoots Matt with the arrow, and then they fight, and
she slits his throat.
Yeah, she goes up to him and just slits his throat. Like it came out of nowhere.
You think?
It was just, yeah, because she had been going through on all these missions following Matt's code of like not killing anyone, and then all of a sudden she's just gonna run up and like kill this hand person. But I guess they are the hand, and she's been trained by Stick to like hate them and kill them. So
not only that, she saw it as self-defense.
That's what she said.
Right.
I mean, the kid was beaten and defeated, and now is like starting to interrogate him. And
that's true. That's true. Well, he was dying from poison. And an arrow through the chest.
Kid?
No, Matt.
Oh, the arrow was poison?
Yeah. Same poison that remember she
was on the blade.
Yeah. He blacked out and he was seeing like blurry things of what was happening. She was taking care of him, using the same stuff to cure him as.
Okay.
And then she had like the cleaners come in and dispose of the body.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I just didn't. I didn't see that as him being poisoned. I saw that as him just losing a lot of blood and having an arrow shot through him, and his body needed to recover.
Which, by the way,
and he was just like in and out of sleep. I didn't think that was poison.
Yeah, but by the way, he was able to fight really well with two arrows. Like one went straight in and out, and the other was in him. Like
yes. So that's totally normal, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, that's bloodlust, adrenaline. When you're in battle, at least from everything I've read, I obviously haven't experienced it. But yeah, that's totally normal. The Vikings would actually, that's why people, like in ancient times, they would bang their shields together before they went into battle, so they would have that bloodlust.
Huh. All right. So, okay, so we've been through most of the ideas of what is most people's codes and most people's ideas of justice. Let's go to Fisk.
Okay.
What is Fisk's idea of does he even, because in season 1 he thought he was the good man, and then we have that the scene in the very end.
We know he knew he wasn't a good man, and he knew he wasn't a good man. He was just trying to sell that image of himself as a good man. I don't think he actually believed he was a good man.
See, he
believed he was doing something good to save the city. I think he thought he was doing good things, but I never thought he thought of himself as a good man.
See, I thought that was the entire purpose of my favorite scene in season 1, the monologue about the Good Samaritan, where he's like, I am the ill intent, where he's like, I used to think I was the Levite or the priest, but in reality, I'm the bad guy. And I bought that he thought that that his ends justified the means, that he was in actuality a good guy. But here, he's kind of embraced that as, I'm the bad guy, but in some way, he still has that kind of, I'm here to fix the city, but I'm not. Fisk is incredibly complex, and I love his character. I don't understand him right now.
I just think of him as like power trumps all right now. Like I mean, that's what I think of him as still. He's like, I need the power, or I can't, or I'm useless. Power defines him. If he doesn't have it, he doesn't feel complete. And what the power has different layers. As you see him build his power in the prison, in those flashback scenes.
Which was pretty cool, by the way.
And then he also like adjusts his type of power. So he adapts if certain things happen in a certain way, he'll adapt to try and benefit from it, to gain more power, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's always looking to get more power, collect more power.
Right.
I feel like that's who he is now. He's someone who wants to collect power, can gain more power, and whatever he has to do that is what he'll do. Even if that's aligning himself with the Punisher.
Yeah, where somehow their interests were aligned in that they both wanted bad guys dead. It just so happened that the Kingpin was also a bad guy, but because he was in jail, he wasn't really like it was a very interesting scene because you're thinking, is the Punisher, is he joining up with Fisk? The hell's going on here?
Yeah, it was, but then you got that one like solid line of dialogue, and you're like, okay, like we're still looking at the same character.
Which line do you mean? I know what you mean, but what about the listeners?
Oh, I didn't want to spoil it, but the line where
it's all spoiled at this point.
Yeah, the line where he's just like, "We'll eventually be one. It'll be me versus you, and there will only be one of us left standing." Or something to that effect.
Yeah, I believe the line was, the next time I see you, only one of us is leaving.
Right, yeah.
To which you're like, okay, so he's going to go weaken the entire New York organized crime by just killing everyone. And then Fisk is going to get out, and we're going to have a battle royale.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I did think was... we'll definitely get to see that like head to head later on down the line if it doesn't happen in the two episodes I haven't seen yet. But one thing I thought was like extremely interesting is that Fisk is choosing to stay in prison. He can easily walk out. I mean, the Punisher easily walked out, no problems.
Yeah,
Fisk was able to get him out. So Fisk is actually choosing to stay in prison and run his operation from prison.
It's actually,
which I find extremely interesting.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Because he even says, I think there's like a line where he says like, I want to stay here or something like that. Something to that effect. I
just want to stay here and keep my head down.
Yeah. So he's also, and then that's what really, you see Matt, when Matt goes to visit him, he's like, oh my God, like, what have I done? I've just made this guy almost even stronger by putting him away.
Was it the Born Again book where Karen Page goes to, like...
She sells Daredevil out.
Yeah, she becomes like a...
drug addict.
Yeah, and sells Matt's identity, or Daredevil's identity as Matt, for like a fix, for like a heroin fix, and
yeah,
Kingpin just dismantles Matt's life.
Yeah, and I think there's shades of that looks like it's going to happen because Kingpin requests extra files on Matt Murdock.
Yeah,
especially after he realizes, after Matt punches him in the face.
Yeah.
Speaking of like one-on-one confrontations with the Kingpin, I loved seeing Frank kind of take on the Kingpin even while he was chained up. And I thought that tells so much about his character. And it's just like, this guy doesn't take crap from anybody.
It's true.
Even this like towering monster of a man.
Oh yeah.
Who's like literally towering over Frank. And he's just like, I'm gonna headbutt the crap out of you because you're a piece of crap.
I'm getting one good shot in.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, he got a couple more than one good shot. And I mean, this is after Frank's just been, it was like a human punching bag.
Yeah, he just got finished with his hallway scene.
Yeah. And you talk about, they always are talking about how, Jack Murdoch could take a hit. I mean, Frank Castle can take a hit.
Yeah, he could take a bullet. He took a bullet in the arm, and remember he was stitching himself up?
Yeah,
and
he doesn't need the night nurse. He does it all himself.
It's so true.
Speaking of the night nurse, Rosario Dawson's character plays a pretty big role.
Yeah, she does.
And she's actually like her one-on-ones with Matt are just, they're just like, she's like that. She's like his conscience almost, like, hey, you need to like come back to reality. Like, you're like Foggy's is like injured in the hospital here. You need to like go see him and say hi, be a friend, like be like, you're losing your humanity. And even Madame Gao comments on it. It's like, it seems like you've taken to becoming the devil. It's there's a lot of this dialogue and the imagery of just Matt just like almost losing his humanity.
Yeah.
As the season progresses, as he loses his humanity, his identity, and his like sense of justice, like all in this storyline as it goes out to like really challenge him as like who he is. We're like trying to find out who is Matt Murdock. Even though we know who he is, they're taking him on this path where he has to like find out who he is internally.
It's true. Yeah. I really have enjoyed the character arc of Matt Murdock, even though I find him to be wholly unlikable for most of the season. Because, you know, he's pushing everyone away. He's like, he stands up his friends. He's just a crappy boyfriend, a crappy friend. And, you know, normally you don't like that person. Normally that person is not the protagonist. And yet...
No, definitely. They're usually the jerk.
Yeah.
The jerk friend.
We're rooting for a guy who is a terrible boyfriend and friend.
Yeah. That's what they're trying to get you to do. I'm not sure if I don't know if I found myself rooting for him all that often. I was just like, dude, what are you doing? Stop hanging out with Elektra. Like, what's going on here? Like, what are you doing? Like, go hang out with Foggy. Stop doing this stuff that doesn't matter, right? Doesn't seem to matter right now. Why are you going after Frank? Like, you can leave Frank alone. There's like bigger matters to worry about than Frank. He's like, I think like what you were saying earlier, like his priorities are just kind of like out of whack. And it's like you said, it's really hard to like him. You're kind of almost, you're rooting for him to make the right decision, and he keeps making the wrong ones.
Yeah.
When it comes to his like friends and family, I still think he makes, I don't know, there's some, I don't know, it's really, I mean, we're talking about justice, and it's like, is he really making the right decisions? I don't know. What would I find myself that like, would I do that? I don't know. Like, if I lost my family to brutal like gang shooting, I don't know, what would I do? You find yourself asking those questions, and it's super thought-provoking.
Yeah, agreed. You know, because you're looking at his personal life decisions, and you're like, you are not making good decisions. And you look at his crime-fighting decisions, and you're like, well, I don't know if you're making good decisions there either. So the entire series, you are watching someone make bad decisions, and you kind of see why he's doing it and where. It's very interesting as a character, but he's difficult to like.
Yeah, I mean, he even goes and kind of like teams up with Madame Gao almost there at the end for a little bit to figure out how to track down the blacksmith. And it's just like, what? This Daredevil would never do that in season 1. He wouldn't.
Oh, right. They fought.
Yeah.
Matt tried to beat up that old lady.
Yeah.
And lost, by the way.
Yeah.
He threatened to break an old lady's legs.
And her hundreds of soldiers coming to protect her. Maybe not hundreds, probably just dozens.
Well, we should probably sign off.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening in. And make sure to tune in next week to the Comic Vigilante, where we'll be episode 3.
Yeah. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right. See ya.